Hey everyone, today's going to be a good one. We're going back to the 16th century in Chirac. Guess what we're going to talk about today?
What are we going to talk about?
Werewolves.
What?
Can you read werewolves? I mean, when you hear about like old 16th century, myths and legends, a lot of times you hear a lot about witches and sometimes vampires.
Exactly.
Not too much about werewolves. I mean, in today's movie world, we have a lot of werewolf movies, but there's actually a case about it. We're gonna talk about this right when we get back.
That is interesting.
Agent Owens, today's case involves a werewolf.
That sounds intriguing. I can't wait to dive into the case. You hear that? I think the werewolf is coming.
Run!
I'm sorry. Maybe it's just me. Those skits crack me up. Okay. So everyone, we just want to introduce ourselves.
It's your girl, Shavak.
And I'm Ed, and this is Studio 7.0. If you're new here, this is for education and entertainment purposes only.
Please do your own research and always be kind to everyone.
Everyone, everywhere. Yeah, so today we're going to talk about werewolves. And speaking about like those spooky things, we actually have another channel called The Jump Scare. And if you want to know more about it, we'll just take a quick break and we'll be right back. We'll give you a little kind of hint of what it's all about.
Join us at The Jump Scare, where we watch and react to scary and strange videos. But there's a twist. As you watch, we throw in our own jump scare videos to keep you on your toes. Do you have nerves of steel? Prove it by taking our challenge for some added fun. Watch with a full mug of water, preferably with our logo on it, and see if you can stay steady and dry. Please be safe by keeping the water at room temperature and holding the cup away from anything that can be ruined, like electronics. Let us know if you kept your cool or ended up all washed up.
All right, so we're going to talk about 16th century werewolves. Are they real, Chirac? What do you think?
Of course not. They only come out
Yeah,
in full moon, so...
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some people act like animals,
Yeah,
but anyhow.
put it that way. Tons of them out there.
Just as a quick side note from the last previous little commercial we ran, again, that's for our other channel called The Jump Scare. So if you like watching scary videos, but you want a little more excitement, we put our own custom jump scares we throw in there. So check that out. But let's get going here, guys. And today we're gonna, instead of watching the video, we're gonna have Crime Force give a little background about this case. So let's hear about it.
Before we get into the interesting case of Peter Stump, let's first provide some background on the superstitions of the 16th century. The 16th century in Europe was a time of profound social, political, and religious upheaval. The Protestant Reformation and the Catholic Counter-Reformation were dividing communities, fueling suspicion and paranoia. The fear of heresy, witchcraft, and devilry ran rampant, with authorities often using accusations of sorcery or demonic pacts as tools to control dissent or punish perceived enemies.
I can see that.
Yeah, it still happens today.
Yep.
The key beliefs and fears of the time. Witchcraft and devil worship.
We just mentioned that.
Many believed witches and sorcerers were real and that they gained their powers by making pacts with the devil. This led to widespread witch hunts, particularly in Germany, which became the epicenter of these trials. Werewolves and shapeshifters. In folklore, werewolves were humans cursed or empowered to transform into wolves, often through a magical object or pact with the devil. They were feared as embodiments of primal savagery, capable of terrorizing communities and committing acts of cannibalism and murder. Plague and famine. Widespread disease and crop failures during this time contributed to mass hysteria. People often blamed these misfortunes on supernatural forces, seeing them as punishments from God or the work of witches, werewolves, or other malevolent beings.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Judicial practices. Torture was a common method used in trials to extract confessions. The accused often admitted to impossible crimes under duress, reinforcing the belief in supernatural phenomena. Now let's discuss the life and crimes of Peter Stump. Peter Stump lived in the late 1500s in Bedburg, a small village in the Holy Roman Empire, modern-day Germany. By outward appearances, he was an unassuming farmer, widowed with 2 children, a son and a daughter. However, rumors began to swirl about mysterious and gruesome unaliving in the area. Livestock were found savagely torn apart, and villagers began disappearing, only to have their mutilated remains discovered later. For years, the villagers were gripped with fear. Whispers of a monstrous wolf prowling the countryside grew louder. Some claimed they had seen a massive beast that seemed unnatural in its movements and cunning. Now let's move on to the accusation and trial. In 1589, Peter Stump was arrested after hunters allegedly cornered the werewolf and claimed to have seen Stump transform from wolf to man.
I don't know.
Under torture,
Probably
Stump confessed
something.
to a litany of horrifying crimes. He claimed to have made a pact with the devil at a young age, who gave him a magical belt that allowed him to transform into a wolf.
Magical belt.
In this form,
Is it Gucci
he admitted
belt?
to unaliving and eating livestock,
it's a
men, women, and
Power
children.
belt for create
Stump's
werewolves.
confession included particularly horrific details, such as the unaliving of his own son, whose brain he supposedly consumed.
Ugh.
He also admitted to an incestuous relationship with his daughter, whom he
my
implicated
goodness.
as an accomplice.
Crazy
Modern
stuff.
historians
They're
believe that the
tortured that
confession
hard.
was coerced through torture,
Yeah, there
a
you
common
go.
practice during witch hunts of the time.
Now, onto the actual execution. Stump's execution on October 31st, 1589,
Halloween.
was exceptionally brutal and meant to serve as a warning.
That's weird.
He was publicly broken on the wheel, a form of torture where his limbs were shattered with a large wheel. His flesh was torn with red-hot pincers, and he was finally beheaded. His daughter and mistress, accused of aiding him, were also executed by being flayed and burned alive.
Oh my God.
Burned alive.
After the execution, Stump's body was displayed on a wheel along with the wolf's head as a warning. His magical belt, which he claimed gave him the power to transform, was never found, fueling further
Doesn't
speculation
exist.
and fear among the villagers. Finally, let's quick discuss the legacy of this case. The story of Peter Stump has become one of the most famous werewolf legends in European history. Scholars argue that the tale reflects the paranoia and superstition of the time, especially during the height of witch hunts. It may also have been politically motivated, as Stump was a Protestant in a predominantly Catholic region, and his trial took place during the period of religious conflict known as the Counter-Reformation. Whether Peter Stump was a victim of hysteria or truly believed in his own guilt remains a mystery. His story endures as a dark reminder of the fears and brutality of 16th century Europe. The story of Peter Stump has become a cautionary tale about the dangers of devil worship and moral corruption. Modern historians view it as a product of the superstition, fear, and judicial cruelty of the time. Stump's confession, likely coerced under torture, reflects the desperation of an era where logic and justice often gave way to paranoia and brutality. The legend of the Werewolf of Bedburg continues to haunt the cultural imagination, symbolizing the dark side of human fear and the consequences of unchecked hysteria.
Okay, before we get to the questions, I want to take a little time to comment here because that was quite interesting. So, I mean, let's face it, like there's a lot of hysteria in both in the United States or America at the time and Europe, you know, over the years. And we heard, as you mentioned, about the devil worship and voodoo and witches. The werewolf thing, I mean, if you're getting tortured, I don't know. I know a lot of people would probably say anything if they could to save their life.
Right. And that's what it is. People were saying things like this. Of course, we know history. There's no proof of any werewolves at that time, at any time, right?
Yeah.
16th century,
Yeah.
15th century, there was definitely there's just no
Now,
proof of that.
no, I'm not going to say playing devil's advocate, sorry, no pun intended, but like, and then if you're the people that really truly believe in this, remember, there's no TV, there's no internet, there's no nothing back, no radio, no nothing. It took forever to get news. If you lived in those times and you really were scared and you believed in this belt because this guy, I mean, you don't even know if you're just a villager, how much he's been tortured. You're just going to hear some guy said he had this magic belt to turn him into a werewolf, and they couldn't find the belt. You're going to kind of freak out because you're going to be like, okay, what? There's going to be more werewolves. Whoever finds the belt. I don't know. It's just, it's a fascinating story, but it's also sad, and it reminds me a lot about the Salem witch trials.
Exactly.
Don't you see a lot of parallels there?
Yes, I do. And that's why I think a lot of these stuff come from these legends but there's definitely was evil there. There were people that was definitely evil, and they probably did worship the devil. I believe that part, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think ever since history, there's been, after the Eden, Garden of Eden, there's been people who look to, get power from the dark side, let's say, Now,
I have a question. I know some incidents happened October 31st. You think that's how they got Halloween?
I don't know. That maybe contributed. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But speaking of questions, we do have a few questions that came in. So let's talk. Let's see. How did the legends and stories of werewolves come to America? Oh, that is a good question. So let's find out, because that was a European thing.
European influence. European settlers brought with them stories of werewolves and shapeshifters, rooted in centuries-old folklore from countries like Germany, France, and Scandinavia. These tales often described people cursed or voluntarily transforming into wolves through pacts with the devil or the use of magical items. In colonial America, these legends were initially spread through oral storytelling. While witch trials like those in Salem were more focused on witches, some witchcraft accusations included claims of shapeshifting into animals.
Oh, interesting.
Native American shapeshifting myths. Indigenous peoples of North America had their own traditions of shapeshifting, which sometimes included wolves or other animals.
Yeah.
For example, Navajo skinwalkers.
Yee!
Nalbushii. These are witches who can transform into animals, including wolves, often for malevolent purposes. Anishinaabe stories of the Wendigo. While not a werewolf per se, the Wendigo was a creature associated with cannibalism and transformation, often tied to winter survival. When European settlers encountered these stories, they often merged or adapted them to fit their own supernatural beliefs.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And guys, just to let you know, when the AI crime force team, when they go and get this information, it's, read through text and they interpret and kind of that Yi thing was probably the name of something, but because it was similar to Yi, it interprets it and does the Yi thing. So sorry about that. That's how it translates. AI is still not perfect yet, of course.
So why did the people in Americans
try it again. Why did people in America in the 1500s
That's not America, that's American.
Oh, that's messed up. See how that was subliminal? Oh man, that's messed
American, in America,
that was copied wrong. Why did people in America in the 1500s believe werewolves cause problems? All right, just pretend there's no N there.
I'm not gonna know that.
That came in wrong. So, all right, here we go. Let's see. Why did they think they caused problems?
In the 1500s, the idea of werewolves was often tied to religious beliefs. Werewolves were seen as people who had made pacts with the devil, practicing witchcraft or turning into wolves to cause harm. European settlers in the Americas brought these religious fears with them. Any unexplained events such as livestock deaths, strange diseases, or violent behavior might have been attributed to werewolves or witchcraft. There's also the lack of scientific understanding.
Yeah.
During this time, people lacked scientific explanations for many natural phenomena. Rabies, for example, might have caused aggressive animal attacks or strange human behavior, but it was poorly understood.
That's a good example.
Similarly,
Rabies.
mental illnesses or conditions like hypertrichosis, excessive hair growth, could lead people to believe someone was a werewolf.
Up here. I want to pause here real quickly. So yeah, I mean, we've seen, after you guys have seen on TV, story where people have literally hair covering the whole body. If somebody back then had that condition and didn't want to shave every day or cut their hair every day, that would definitely be misunderstood. I could definitely see that. One of the things I want to go back to in 2 questions before is that I didn't realize that the whole shape-shifting thing was done by a magical item. What's really interesting, I haven't seen any, or at least I haven't seen any werewolf movies that they shift because of an item. Have you?
No.
I thought that was interesting as well. All right, I think we may get we may have another couple of questions. Let's see. Back in the 1500s, what was the understanding of what werewolves could do? Oh, I see what you're saying. So, like vampires, they could they suck blood,
Well, I
they
know they
turn to
probably have
bats, they
strength
do
and
this.
stuff like that.
Yeah, let's check it out.
Abilities and characteristics of werewolves. Number 1. Transformation into wolves. People believed that werewolves could transform into wolves, or wolf-like creatures either voluntarily or involuntarily. Transformation was thought to occur through various means. Wearing a magical item, such as a belt, cloak, or wolfskin. Drinking a potion or applying a magical salve. Making a pact with the devil or being cursed by God or a witch. Number 2. Superhuman strength and speed.
That's what I thought.
Werewolves were thought to possess enhanced physical abilities in their wolf form, including extraordinary strength, speed, and heightened senses, making them formidable predators. Number 3. Uncontrollable bloodlust. Werewolves were often depicted as being consumed by an
Similar to
uncontrollable
vampires.
urge to unalive and devour humans, livestock, or other animals. This bloodlust was sometimes explained as part of their curse or as a result of their connection to the devil. Number 4. Shapeshifting at will or under specific conditions. Some believed werewolves could shift between human and wolf form at will, while others thought the transformation was tied to specific circumstances, such as the full moon, though this
That's what I said,
association
full moon.
became more prominent in later centuries. Nighttime. Being in a certain location, such as a forest. And number 5, resistance to normal weapons. Folklore suggested that werewolves could only be unalived or harmed by specific methods, such as using silver weapons, though this
Yeah, I've
idea
heard that
became
before.
popularized in later
It's
centuries.
like vampires.
Decapitation or burning. Using blessed or holy items, such as holy water or a crucifix.
I never heard that.
Mm-mm.
How were werewolves identified?
Identified.
That's a great question. 'Cause that'd be, I mean, back then, how would they identify a werewolf? Well, it seems like back then, in those earlier times, if you didn't like somebody, or if you're a Catholic and the other person was Protestant, if there's some motivation behind that, I can see. But I wonder, that's a good question. I wonder how theoretically you're supposed to know that person was a werewolf in theory.
Exactly. Yeah. Of course, vision is looking at it, and if they have a lot of hairs, oh, you're a werewolf. People would just say, "Oh, I'm just hairy," but
Yeah,
be a werewolf.
like
You got a lot of hairs.
the way it's like when people are a witch, you could say, okay, that's an old, weird, ugly lady. Nothing against them. I'm just saying,
Right.
people would say, oh, that person's acting strange. It's a witch. So let's hear it. This would be good.
Number 1. Physical signs.
See, physical.
In human form, werewolves were thought to exhibit certain traits that gave them away, such as hair growing on the palms of their hands or under their skin, bushy eyebrows that met in the middle, a unibrow,
Oh,
long, sharp fingernails,
Oh,
a hunched
Yeah.
posture or animal-like behaviors. Number 2. Behavioral signs. Werewolves were believed to act strangely, showing aggression, a preference for raw meat, or an aversion to religious items like crosses. And number 3. Injuries in wolf form. If a werewolf was wounded while in wolf form, the same injury would appear on their human body when they returned to human
Interesting.
form. This belief was often used to prove someone's guilt. Number 1.
oops, sorry. Hit the button. Yeah, so thank you guys. Crime Force did it again. Woohoo!
thank you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah, a lot of
They're the
informative
biddity bang.
information.
So really quickly, so that's interesting about the, if you're wounded, I assume if they're out hunting and they shoot a wolf, say in the leg, and meanwhile somebody else has a wound on their leg, they're going to put 2 and 2 together and say, hey, you're a werewolf because I shot you at night when you're in your wolf form. I don't know.
I think it's just basically, they didn't have they had mental illnesses. Some people definitely had mental illness back then, but if it was not identified, right, it was. So people just probably, like they said, the behavior. I can see people, people. When we see people today, we say, "Oh, that person is crazy," right? Because they act crazy, they do crazy things. So definitely, the behavior will be one thing. And we do it today. We just, say werewolf, but we say, other words sometimes.
And Crime Force didn't mention this specifically, but, talked about the, Native Americans and all that in terms of, understanding their culture. I'm not sure. I'd have to ask this question. I should have included it in the questions with Crime Force, but if somebody used a wolf's skin or a wolf's head and put it on themselves as some ritual, and somebody came across and saw that at night, they might see the half man, half wolf and misinterpret that either in battle or through ceremony. I mean, there's many different reasons why. I mean, let's face it. Look at today. Some people think this is so strange, that happened back then. But look at today on these TV shows. And I know we talk about this in our other show, Jump Scare. But anybody can grab a camera, go to some dark building or dark house that is absolutely not haunted and anything, make some noise, generate something, even if it's not there, and everybody's freaking out and believes there's something going on. When it's really absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
So if we have that today with all the modern technology and understanding logics and intelligence, back then when there was nothing and you're out there on your own and you have to survive and it's dark at night and things are happening, you could at least understand it. I'm not saying it's justified. I'm just saying you at least understand that.
It's just like anything else, superstition stuff that was going on. So that was basically,
I thought another one we could talk about. I just thought of it. I have to write it down later. We'll add it to our list. Well, thank you guys. We're going to talk about really quickly, hey, if you really like what we do, come back and see us again. We'd love to have you guys check out more of our episodes. If you want, you can become a subscriber. That'd be awesome. Once in a while, we do a live stream. We haven't done one in a while, but we really would like to see you guys again either here or on the Jump Scare.
And if you're a member, we would actually give you a shout out too, just to let you know that.
If you're a member, we do shout outs, and we'll give you the ability to send information over if there's a case or a topic you want to cover.
Yes,
we will give you preference on that as well.
We have done that before.
Yep, we would do it again.
Thanks for Gen H. I gotta
another shout out. I know we've restricted at this time of recording comments, I'm not sure we've been really restricting comments because right now on YouTube the comments are some of them are unfortunately generated or they're negative, and I just feel bad for the people who really want to provide good comments. So for now we're restricting that particular item, but if you become a member, that will open up as well. So anything else, Shirok?
I just want to say thanks for watching. And what do you think of werewolves? Have you heard any stories about werewolves?
We have Wolfpack here in Connecticut. It's hockey.
Wolfpack is hockey. Yeah,
we're familiar with those type of werewolves, or wolves, I should say. Oh my goodness! But until next time,
Studio 7-0.
Let's go.
Crime Force.